very good morning to you on this 29th day of August. It is Friday, and for many it is payday or a pay weekend this weekend. If you don't have any pay, well, we're glad you've joined us on the Fifth Connection, where we are talking through the storyline of the Scriptures. We are in the letter to the church at Ephesus, where Paul is tracking what synchronicity looks like in the context of the assembly. He's talking about what happens when God, the people of God, and events coalesce, when they come together. What does that look like? What happens in a context like that? Well, across the 115 verses of 6 chapters, Act 1, which covers chapter 1, 2, and 3, has the plan for the assembly. Chapters 4, 5, and 6 has to do with the prompts for the assembly. How that the assembly needs to embody the plan and the purposes of God. In chapter 1, we saw that reality flows with dignity. In chapter 2, it flows with vitality. And now, in this very exciting chapter 3, scene 3, reality flows with novelty. There is newness to this reality. And how do we know that? Well, we know it from chapter 3, verse number 1 and verse number 2. Because in that chapter, he's talking about how that we can project innovation through discourse and difficulty. Paul was in the midst of a tough situation. He was in prison. There was a limitation on him. That was the difficulty. And yet he is talking about something very wonderful. He is using his limitation as a lever. He's using it as a lever to expose the people of God to the plan of God. So he's discoursing, he's involved in a discourse with them, talking about how that this mystery, what is a mystery? A sacred secret. In the plan of God, a mystery has to do with something which God discloses. It's not something you can find out by purely your discovery instincts. It's something that he has to uncover. And the thing that he uncovers is called this entity called church. Church is a mystery. The assembly is a mystery, because in that assembly there is Jew-Gentile union. In one body, that's what happens. Gentiles no longer have to become Jews or embrace Judaism, and the males be circumcised in order to experience the blessing of God. Jews come in at the front door, so do Gentiles. And what is that front door? It's called the cross. Jesus dies at Calvary, and on Calvary's cross, he gives his life. But on the third day, he rises again, so that you and I can have a new lease on life. And that's why he starts out in verse 4. Now that he has postured for this novel idea, this mystery that God has given and shown him, he says, when you read this, what is this a reference to? The antecedent of this is what is written to them about briefly, first of all, in verse 3. He says, I have written briefly to you. Where did he write briefly to them? Well, it's not outside of the text of this book. It comes up in chapter 2, verse 11 to 22. He's going to talk through what this mystery is all about. In seed form, he starts to unpack Jew-Gentile union in Christ. Jew-Gentile union in one body. When you interpret the printed signs and symbols, that's what reading has to do with. Interpreting signs and symbols. black ink for us on white paper, but it's no longer black ink on white paper. Now we go to a digital screen and we type on a screen. Isn't that wonderful? When the Mesopotamians invented writing, they used a pointed reed and they would imprint the point of that reed into soft clay and they would write on clay tablets. They would communicate. Well, my clay tablet is an iPhone these days, and so is many of us. Our young people are brilliant at sending these messages that go at Mach speed around the globe. They can send messages on WhatsApp. Well, Paul says, when you read this, you will comprehend my level of substructure understanding. In other words, you will perceive my insight that I have been given because I can read reality below the surface. The only reason I can read it is because God has revealed it to me. I can see below the surface. I can comprehend, you will comprehend my level of understanding, substructure truths. Truths that are foundational. And it's given as a mystery, as a sacred secret that has now been revealed. The last time I checked, there are 11 mysteries in the New Testament text. You have one in Ephesians 5, the mystery of the relationship between Christ and his church as pictured in a husband and wife relationship, a marital relationship. You have the mystery of godliness in the book of Timothy. Great is the mystery of godliness, Christ in the flesh, Christ coming in human form. Boy, what a mystery God has uncovered in the person of Christ. And he plays his hand. Here the mystery is revealed. It's uncovered. Paul says, I've postured for it in verse 1, 2, and 3. And now he's going to present it to these believers. When you read this, you will understand my level of insight. You will perceive. That's what perception is all about, comprehending. My level of substructure understanding, my level of insight into this sacred secret. Because it was given to Paul to speak about this mystery that God had revealed to him, uncovered to him. He was the apostle to the Gentiles, the appointed one to the Goyim, to the nations. Paul says, I want to preach where the gospel has not been preached before. In other words, I want to go in Star Trek language where no man has gone before with the gospel. And he presents it with such clarity. And you see, this is a new idea. Now you're going to see in verse 5 in the next episode why this idea is a novel idea and what aspect of this idea is novel and new. But you see, you must posture for novelty. If you sit, soak, and sour, don't expect novelty to come your way because you have lost your zest for life. You feel that God owes you. God has thrown you a curve ball and you just can't hit that. You can't strike that ball. You strike out. Well, how about living life on the balls of your feet and being forward leaning, waiting with eager expectation for what God is about to do next, because he is about to do a great thing in your life as a believer, as a follower of the way. Now, you may not believe that, but you see, when you do not posture yourself for novelty, and posturing yourself for novelty means that you have an understanding of how to live with your limitations. Because all of us have a plimsoll line. What's a plimsoll line? It's that line on a boat or a yacht If the water goes over that line constantly, the boat is going to be filled with water and it's going to sink. It's called a plimsoll line. God knows where our plimsoll line is. He knows what our limitations are, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual, marital, financial, and in every other possible way. And He wants us to process that in the midst of the reality we are in. And understand that He can hit a straight blow with a crooked stick. Christ is at work in 1,000 places. Well, He's at work at one and the same time in billions of places. Do you think you are a major assignment to Him? Well, if you think you're special, so am I. So is everyone else in the family of God. We are special. He's moved us. He's called us out of darkness into light. That is why when we savingly believe in Jesus Christ, according to 2 Corinthians 5:17, all things are become new. Our life of selfishness is now something of the past, and we need to live in the light of the newness of what He brings. And He brings it into our life through dying and rising, through death and resurrection, through the cross and the empty tomb. Because you see, that is what discipleship is all about. When God calls a man to follow Him, He bids him come and die, said Dietrich Bonhoeffer. How about it? He moves us from order to disorder to reordering our lives. And so He will take you through many death-like experiences, many, many, many times, in order to experience what newness is all about, so that I can see new things. Because you can only see clearly what your level of transformation affords you. Let me repeat that. You can only see clearly what your level of transformation has afforded you or affords you. Remember that commercial song years ago? I can see clearly now the rain is gone. Oh, we used to sing that with passion. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds. Well, you can only see clearly when you are given to having God transform your life in a continued way, in a vital way, moment by moment, teaching you new things and different things, and many more things, and deeper things. Are you posturing for that? Or have you reached for the rocking chair, the armchair, because you are so out of breath? Remember, you cannot outrun reality. But you have to create a new reality. How do you do that? By dying and rising. Dying to the old and rising to the new. That's what death and resurrection is all about. Newness. Paul is postured to give this new message, this novel idea. It was called a mystery, but he was given the stewardship, the custodianship of this mystery. Are you learning some new things about God and how He operates? People often ask, how does God work in people's lives? Well, I suggest to you, watch people around you who have summered and wintered in the things of God, and watch how God has worked in their life and how He is working in their lives. That's how God is working in people's lives. But you see, we're so blind to that. We think we are the most special on the planet. Yes, there's no one like you. But so is all of us. We are all special. And God has special sweets that He wants to give to us on a moment-by-moment basis. Not just once a month, not once a week, not twice a year, but moment by moment. How are you posturing for novelty in your life? the new things that He's about to teach you. You're going to come across some of that today. You're going to come across some new people today, some new ventures, some new ideas, some things that you have not seen before. How are you going to be processing that novelty in your life? Well, if you don't posture for it, you ain't going to see it in the first place. Still less are you going to be able to process and imbibe it. As you go about your life today, I trust that you will enjoy the Lord and eagerly anticipate what He's about to do in your life next. Enjoy the day, and goodbye for now.